wireless, sir.
I thought you.
There's your cake.
What is this called?
Summer job.
Wrapped up on the floor.
Okay.
Speed.
Okay. Peter, how in the world did you get involved in making music out of baseball bats?
Well, I had a studio next to a metal scrapyard, and I had some music to make that had to be very environmental. And I woke up in the middle of the night with the exact sound. I thought maybe that scrapyard would help me make it. And I gathered a bunch of metal, and some of it was baseball bats, and they worked.
You know, the thing about the aluminum baseball bat is that they don't break, which of course is why the colleges use them. I'm trying to just wonder why discarded aluminum bats were there in that scrapyard.
I guess these bats were manufactured with some defect, and that it was easier for them to sell it to the scrap business by cutting off the counterweight of rubber that's at the end.
So
to melt them down or something.
Okay, so you took the bats home. Obviously you had to cut them to some form of specification to get the proper tone.
No, that's what I'm saying, you see. They were cut already in order to get rid of that rubber that was at the end as a counterweight. So they were already a beautiful sounding bell. As soon as I hung them up, suspended from a wire, and hit them with a wood mallet, beautiful tones.
Then how about to get the full register of tones for a concert? Did you have to get X number of bats and do work on those?
Well, not really. You see, I'm going for freshness in sound. So the tone rows are tones selected out of the many bats that I have, put in a scattered order, and then a lot of bats there so that they're very close and make overtones.
Before you got involved with the baseball bats, your musical training was to a more orthodox style, wasn't it?
Yes, I've played saxophone for years.
Did you have a problem adjusting to, I guess, what you call new music, or perhaps others would call space music from this kind of training?
Well, it naturally evolved into, finding one's own music. I think the saxophones are a little unhappy about the arrangement.
One of the things, Peter, if you were a violinist, for example, you got the violin in the little case and away you go. These are a little more difficult to transport, aren't they?
They are.
How do you do it?
Well, they go in trunks and they come along, and sometimes they have to be sent ahead.
Obviously, you're aware that Major League Baseball teams stay away from the aluminum bat because really, when you talk about it, there's the sound of baseball, which this is really in direct opposition to, wouldn't you say?
Well, I heard these bats and I thought, my goodness, that's not the good wood bat sound, is it? And then the very next day I was in there in the scrapyard selecting them for music, so you never know.
Right. You were a baseball fan, or you still are, but in your particular case, although your studio is here in Brooklyn, you were a Tiger fan back in Michigan.
Yeah, I think the Tigers are still playing baseball.
Still follow Detroit?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
I like those one-hand catches. They have style. You know?
Peter, as far as the reaction of the public to the music, you wouldn't say it's something that the kids would be like on the old Dick Clark show, I like the sound and I like the beat and they can dance to it. You're really not getting involved in that sense, are you?
Well, not exactly. It's a strike tone and a hum tone, so it's a very kind of continuous sound, and that's why I'm playing baseball bats.
If you had your druthers, what would be the public's reaction? What are they supposed to do to this music? If there is such an answer.
There certainly is. I think the music is easy to enjoy. I think it sounds really nice.
Okay.
The public's role is to enjoy the music.
So you're not really calling for a jam contest when you hear this music, are you? Everybody come over to Peter's house for the big soiree?
Well, I try to fit the mood of the situation. You know, whether I'm doing a performance in a gallery or making a soundtrack for like that NASA space tape, or you know, I go for the feeling. You know, with the feeling.
Are you aware that anybody else might be doing this particular sound besides yourself?
I don't think anybody else is actually playing baseball bats. But you know, it's amazing. Every time you do something, there are some other people doing something a bit similar. A lot of people are inventing instruments, and this is an invented instrument.
When you need the total sound that you're looking for a particular piece, do you have to go out and get additional bats and cut them specifically, or do you have your little, for lack of a better term, stable of equipment ready to go for any kind of sound?
Well, it's always changing. I do add to it, yeah.
Do you miss
I get very excited when I go over to the scrapyard.
Yeah,
You never know what you'll find.
that's great with the bats. You have one bright green bat amidst the other more standard aluminum bats. Is there a particular significance to that?
Yeah, my girlfriend sometimes plays that bat.
Go into that, will you?
Well, these things happen by chance.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, but it has a certain tone, and you recognize it. There's one that is red, and it's a bit mutilated. It's the only one that's a little mutilated. And I have a certain fondness for that one too. You remember them all. You know, they each have their unique sound.
Do you actually have a score going in, or is it sort of winging it by ear?
No, it's really very closely scored.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, so you know which bat you're going to strike and
Yeah, and
etc.
which piece
beforehand.
I'm going to play and in what order I'm playing the pieces. Yeah.
Okay. Can you teach anybody to do this?
Yes,
Once the
actually,
bats are...
yeah, it would be rather easy. As I say, you know, all the music is scored. So this music, incidentally, is quite similar to Indonesian gamelan music, Indonesian bell chime music, which is scored in the same manner, and which is possible for Westerners to play.
If the day comes, when the aluminum bat becomes obsolete,
Oh my God.
what do you do?
Well, I have quite a number that I plan on playing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anybody think to ask that, do I? Good one.
Anytime.
When I first selected the baseball bats, I was very excited about it, and I came home and I hung up 7 bats. I just hung them up with monofilament line from a suspended wire. And those 7 bats have always stayed in that order, that complete chance order of tones. And so I, of course, am very familiar because I've been playing them for years, you know, and I know what the tones are, and more music comes out of that set of bats. Then I started selecting some bats to match another bat very, very closely. This is for overtones. And not to be technical about it, but when you play some tones that are very close to other tones, you get a big, full, beautiful sound. And so I have a number of bats that are set up like that. You know, they match other bats and others that are in their original tone rows.
One more question for you. Do you cut the bat yourself to get the exact tone that you want with equipment that you have here, or is there another way that's done?
As I said, a lot of the bats were cut off in order to get rid of the rubber to
Right.
go to the scrapyard.
But say it's not the same tone that you're looking for.
Right, I cut it, or some aren't cut, so I cut those. Yeah. It's in the wall, filling the space with color. And it was for Madrid by my friend Eugenio Baltej, a Spanish video artist. And I had the job of making music for that. And so I got these bats to have the same kind of full environmental field sound. But it was so fresh that I just kept working with them and stopped playing saxophones and kept playing baseball bats. So it's really that freshness. And I find it more and more interesting. I mean, I made up something yesterday that I've never done before. Just
What was that?
Fooling around.
Just a score?
You know, some more, yeah, new piece of music. And It went right into the program. We're going to play it Friday.
Great.
I didn't mention Panine Art Gallery and our
No, we'll,
scored. It's incredibly scored.
right.
But I like it to be a custom job too. So like if you go into a museum in Europe and you listen to the situation, then make up something completely new right there. It's kind of an invocation.
And if you ever play the wrong note, nobody'd ever know, would they?
Not so sure. It might not sound good.
Might sound bad.
Well, that sort of thing goes on in rehearsal.
Both of us talking? Or?
Yeah, oh, well, just chit-chatting back and forth.
Right.
This is just a wide setup.
Okay.
No, but it's true. You take a chance, you know.
You have
It's
to.
not just freshness, but I mean, I'm
Yeah.
taking a chance playing these baseball games.
Have you had a concert before this one Friday other than the Madison thing, which really wasn't a time ago?
Okay,
Another
you
one
guys
I
are
like,
talking to each other.
The one I like, I'll show, not mention their names, is when somebody says, "Who says the Yankees can't win the pennant?" And I'm home watching that, I scream.
Let me have
"Says
Peter
it."
talking a little
Nobody
bit.
says it. You know, who says it?
Nobody says it, yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. They're begging the question.
Mhm. You want Peter to talk?
Just a little bit.
Go ahead. Tell us about rooting for the Tigers.
Well, the thing about the Tigers is that they would take chances and lose. They were so ridiculous. I mean, you're not supposed to catch with one hand. I don't think you're quite getting my...
You can talk about anything, Peter.
Anything.
Right, okay, so the thing is that you can give me 1,000 a week, right? Don't argue with me. 1,000 a week every Monday.
Mm-hmm.
I could pay for that, 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
What a sport.
Well, you know, I don't want to be too rough. We haven't gotten to Wednesday and Thursday, right? Wednesday, Thursday, I relax, you know, something slow like golf. You play golf? Hate golf.
Tennis.
Just a little bit more, Peter.
A little bit more.
Just a touch more for me.
Okay.
Relax.
Sunday.
He's an old pro here.
Sunday, right? What are we going to do on Sunday? No, wait a minute, don't answer. Don't answer me. I'll come up on Sunday. We could go visiting. I think it's time to get more social with others. Yeah.
And we're rolling.
Okay. What other instruments do you play?
Well, they're all invented instruments. This is a gas tube connecting, corrugated tubing.
Where do you get that?
Hardware store. Yep.
All right, you've got a different sound here.
Well, these are supposed to be women's purses. They're armadillo shells. But we get a little change of pace with these, you know, like in baseball. Chuck it in there, baby. Let's go. Woo! Rhythm. Woo! They're hot, you know, and then their quieter sounds are such natural pine cones. Good sound.
Pine cones.
Natural things make beautiful sounds. Strike.
Can you play a little bit more?
Being a physical therapist, if you need one, she's. Go ahead.
Coming down the line now. Here we go.
And this is just the wide shot.
Okay. So we could be talking about anything right now. the fact,
Oh, I see, it's the wide shot.
The wide shot. with those,
The problem is really what to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, the wide shots, yeah. That could be good
But
for
this
the
will
wide
be good.
shot.
The,
Yes, it's a whole wide shot, I mean.
Anytime.
Well, this is the Molimo, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I guess the transition.
You have speed, take a baby step back. That's good, okay. You have speed.
You're explaining all this to me.
And wait, let's wait for the air. Okay, let's give it a shot.
Well, here's another invented instrument, and it's just gas connecting tubing. But I get it in the hardware stores. I go in there and try them out. They think I'm nuts, and that's the one. I'll take that. They say I'm supposed to come in with the size, you know. I say, well, what size do you want? I say, well, I'm not quite sure. What does that one sound like? Oh, great. That's it. I'll take it.
And I'm rolling.
Do I actually do that?
Yes.
Well, here it is again, the corrugated tubing for gas connections, and I got it at the hardware store, and
That's fun.
it's hidden out there. And then they
What-
go
what
out
is
and they
theirs
play it,
on
and it
it?
sounds actually somewhat like this.
But theirs isn't tubing.
Do me a favor, hold
Yeah,
it
it's a
back,
tubing.
hold it back down where you were. Yeah, okay, and just talk. And
So the Molimo is actually a pygmy instrument.
Is it made out of wood?
No, it's made out of some sort of long metal tubing that they get somewhere.